Welcome to the Visualize Meditations podcast, hosted by your friend Sasha Patil, a Chopra certified meditation teacher. The first step to creating the life of your dreams is to create a clear and compelling vision for what you want for the future. I'll be guiding you on visualization meditation so you can get clear on your deepest desires. Let's get started so you can turn your vision into a reality. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Visualize Meditations podcast. It's your gal pal Sasha, and to paint the scene for you right now, I am currently in Siem Reap, Cambodia, and it's the last portion of the Asia leg of my trip. I'll be back in the States for the foreseeable future until I think the summer, but honestly, plans can change and plans can be flexible, and that's okay. It was funny because I was talking to my therapist, must have been last week, and he's like, well, I thought this year was for exploration and next year was the year to decide where you want to go. And I was like, well, isn't deciding where you want to live just a societal concept? Really? And I was like, really, people move locations all the time. People move throughout their lifetime. So why do I have to decide one place where I want to live? Like, is it really necessary? Do I have to decide on one place to be forever? I think I might just continue to bop around and travel around until I feel called to stay in one spot. And his response to that was, I'm going to send you back to Burning Man, with his attitude. I thought it was funny. So for the foreseeable future, I think, I don't know, maybe next summer I'll do Paris in the summer again. I don't know. I really enjoyed my time and I might do that again. But honestly, everything's up in the air and everything's a little uncertain, and as far as where I want to live and where I want to go, and that's okay. I really only know where I'm going to be up and through April, and then after that, I have an idea, like a general idea, but if things change, then things change, and that's okay. Like, I don't feel like I have to have it all planned out. I have a backup plan, a general idea, but I'm very content to have things change. And but as far as this trip goes, I go back to the States in 2 days on the 11th month anniversary of me starting my digital nomad full-time one-way plane ticket journey. And it'll be 11 months in transit, but I'm still not going to be in one spot when I go back to the States. I'll be bopping around a little bit before settling in one place. I don't think I'll be settling in one place until mid-January. So I have another month and a half or so of kind of bopping around until I've landed somewhere at least for 2-ish months, 3-ish months, something like that. I'm not sure. But honestly, I'm tired and I'm on the edge of burnout. But I think I'm really looking forward to going back to the States, to be honest with you. I'm really looking forward to being home in America, and the first thing I plan on doing is going to Chipotle and getting a fat burrito. That's my plan as soon as I get home. It's funny because before I left for my Asia leg, I was at my girlfriend's house in Denver, and she was like, "Ooh, I want to make sure you have some creature comforts before you go to Asia. Like, I want to make sure you have the things that you want before you leave. Is there anything you want?" And I was like, marijuana. But other than that, I couldn't think of anything. And after being away for 2.5 months, I'm like, I want Chipotle. That's all I want. I want Chipotle. And that just shows, at least I know my creature comfort now. I think there is nothing that a Chipotle burrito and an episode of Gilmore Girls or an episode of Call Her Daddy cannot fix. Like, I'm in the depths of my sorrows. I'm not doing well. Chipotle and Gilmore Girls or Call Her Daddy will fix me right up. Even if I'm at a 0, it'll bring me to a 2. Even if I'm at a 9, it'll bring me to a 10. It always lifts my mood. It always lifts my energy. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm really looking forward to spending some really good quality time with my loved ones. And I'm really, really looking forward to Date with Destiny. It was funny because I was talking to my mom about everything that's happening right now, and she was saying that Asia feels like the ending of this year and the ending and the tying up of all of the lessons and the growing that I've been doing this year. And Tony Robbins feels like the fresh start and the new page and the new chapter, the new book almost of what the next stage of my life is going to be. And I didn't really I didn't really resonate with that until a couple of days ago when I had this like pretty transformative moment happen for me. And then I was like, oh, wait, yeah, actually, that's what this exactly feels like. It feels like the Asia leg is closing out a lot of the healing, the growing, the learning, and like putting an end to this chapter and starting fresh when I go to Tony Robbins and do that event. I'm going to Date with Destiny. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I've been saying it since the beginning. I think I booked it about a year ago. I've been saying since the beginning that I knew that Tony Robbins was going to be a great way to end the chapter of this year. And I'm really looking forward to the transformation that's going to be happening there, and really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be, I almost don't want to put too much pressure on it, but at the same time, I think it's a fair thing to put a lot of pressure on. Every time I go to these things, it's been a very transformative experience. I mean, that's literally the whole reason you go to these Tony Robbins events, right? Is that you go to look at your life from a bird's eye view perspective and make adjustments and make changes based on where you think you need to heal, grow, learn, evolve, and choose a new life, choose a new path, and integrate. Well, integration really happens after the fact, but it's like, how do you integrate? How do you make the changes and do all of that? So I'm really looking forward to that chapter. As far as what's been happening here in Asia, the last time we sat down and had a one-on-one chat, I was in Ho Chi Minh by myself, and I was really enjoying my time solo, alone, just hanging out. My best friend was supposed to be in Ho Chi Minh with me, but he did not get his visa in time, so I ended up having 5 days in Ho Chi Minh to myself, and I really enjoyed my experience. I really enjoyed my solo time, and it gave me the time and space to really focus on myself, and I felt my emotional evolution, because in the past I would have been so angry about that, but I actually just felt really grateful and had radical acceptance for what it was, and just really enjoyed my time regardless. And I thought I've gotten to the point where I understand that you get the situation and you get the experience that you need, not necessarily the one you want. And I was cool with that. And yeah, I was a little disappointed to not have the amount of quality time with my best friend that I wanted to have. We only got like 2-3 days on the front end, and we got like 2-3 days on the back end. But also Monsieur 66 ended up meeting us in Hanoi after the fact, so I didn't really get a lot of one-on-one time with my best friend. We got like 2-3 days together when we were supposed to have 10, which honestly, but we have a whole lifetime of friendship, so it's not like a huge deal, but I was looking forward to it. And but at the end of the day, you get the thing you need and not the thing you want, so I'm cool with it. Actually, scratch that. The last time you and I had sit down and had a chat was the single-versary, where I've been single for 1 year, and I went through like the 10 lessons that I feel like I've learned about life and relationships in the last year. And I honestly think I might do a bigger roundup at the end of this year with maybe way more than that, because most of those were around relationships. And I feel like I've learned a lot about life in this year, not necessarily just relationships. So I might do a bigger roundup at the end of this year, maybe around like the 1 year anniversary of me starting to travel. But yeah, so that was the last time we sat down and had a chat. And I talked about in that episode that I was going through a lot of situations that were kind of forcing me to grow and to learn. And honestly, I'm not quite at the space yet where I'm ready to talk about what is happening, because I'm still honestly going through it. I mean, I feel like I've come out on the other side of the facing my inner demons and facing my limiting beliefs and my trauma and my limiting patterns. I feel like I'm out on the other side of that. But as far as the situation goes, the situation's not over yet. I'm still in Asia. I'm still going through it, and I don't feel called to share necessarily about what's happening, because I feel like the story is like 90% done, and I still have 2 more days in Asia to kind of enjoy before the end feels like it's like a full, complete story to tell. And maybe one day I'll tell the full story about what happened with Mr. 66, and maybe I'll talk about the entirety of our relation or relationship or situationship or whatever the hell this is. But truthfully, it's still in process, and truthfully, it's still happening. And it's the evolution of what it's been has been so beautiful, and it's taught me so much about myself, and it's given me the opportunity to really look at my shit and relive through some really painful experiences from my past and be able to choose a new way and choose a new way of thinking and choose a new way of evolution. And it's really given me that opportunity. And for that, I'm so grateful, but I don't feel really called to share that yet because it's not over and it's still happening. And the story is not complete. So I don't really want to tell it while I'm in the middle of it. And I'm sure you guys can respect my boundaries around that. And maybe I'll tell the full story one day, but I'm still kind of getting a grasp on what happened. But as far as talking about, I'm open to talking about kind of the things I've been learning and the lessons I've been learning in this time, because truthfully, it's been really, really challenging the last 3 weeks or so. Going through the breakup anniversary was way more difficult than I thought it was going to be. The breakup itself was 10 days, and the timing of it was a little too coincidental, like that, just with like the anniversary of it all. That's kind of when Mr. Swasosis and I like reconnected, and I had a recording with Josh that day, and I was going to a new city and a new spot. And the next 2 weeks after that were really, really, really intense emotionally. I was faced with a lot of situations where that came up, and not just with Mr. Swasosis, but also in life, that kind of came up that really mirrored what I went through with my ex and really mirrored what I went through in my past, and not just with him, just like in childhood or with other relationships. And everything came up at once about mirroring things that I went through in the past. And it felt like almost a test from the universe, where the universe was like, okay, bitch, you've spent an entire year focusing on yourself and healing through limiting beliefs and growing and learning and evolving. Let's put you through the same shit and see if you've actually grown and seeing if you actually learned. Like, let's put it to the test. Let's put it to the test. Like, you can talk a big game, but like, is it real? And I felt like my patterns, and I felt like my whole year, I felt like in such a beautiful, poetic way, it all came around full circle. And I had the opportunity to reface the same situations and be like, okay, bitch, did you learn? Did you grow? And I think that's true in life in general, is that maybe your trauma and maybe the challenges you have or your limiting beliefs, maybe they don't necessarily go away, but maybe you experience the same types of challenges over and over and over again until you learn the lesson. And maybe it's just a matter of you are faced with the same things over and over again. And maybe it's a matter of choosing a different way to react, choosing a different way to think about it, choosing a different response that actually promotes your growth instead of allowing it to limit you and allowing it to beat you down. So that's kind of where I've been. And I don't know if I necessarily want to get into specifics. I can get into the specifics of the lessons, but I don't really want to get into the specifics of the situations, just out of privacy of me. Monsieur Soissons doesn't care about the privacy. Like, I don't think he would care if I use his name. We even talked about like one day maybe we'll record something, but not at this point. And I want to respect the privacy of my ex as well, because some of the situations that came up were, and if for me to share them wouldn't be great for his privacy either. So I'm not going to talk about the situations that came up, but I'm going to talk about the lessons. One of the lessons that came up was this fear and this pain and this trauma I have had, because I feel like I've maybe broken it. I'm not quite sure if broken's the right word, but this fear around being rejected. And if I go deeper than that, what does that fear actually mean? What was that fear really underneath that? And it was like a fear of not feeling good enough. And I think that came from childhood, where, being in situations where I felt like in my family relationships, they weren't mutual, or another person might not have had any interest in having like a deep, meaningful relationship with me. And me just constantly trying to change and to prove and to be better and to grow and to, do the things I felt like I had to do in order to get another person to want to have a meaningful relationship with me. When in reality, I really am just more than enough just being who I am. Like, the reality is I am more than enough just as I am now and just as I was then. And I think it came up a lot for me in my childhood. I think it came up a lot for me in my friendships, where I felt like I was always the one to care more. I felt like I was always the one to love more, to give more. My relationships felt a little one-sided. And I think, and even in my romantic relationships, I felt like I was more emotionally invested. I was more in it than the other person. And in some cases, that was the complete truth. And I think I feel like I've broken that curse a little bit, where it's a couple of things. Number one, whatever you tell yourself is the truth. Whatever story you tell yourself, you will find evidence to back up your own beliefs about yourself. Like if I'm telling myself, oh, like I always care more and I always love more than other people in my life and my relationships are so one-sided. If I tell myself that, I'm going to find evidence of that in relationships in my past, present, and potentially future. But in reality, it's not true. In reality, I have and had in the past so many mutual, fulfilling, uplifting, loving relationships. I've had so many of them. And it's like whatever evidence I'm looking for is the evidence I'm going to find. And that's the complete truth, you know? Like on one side, I could be like, oh yeah, like, you know, they're not mutual, they're not uplifting. Like I always care more, love more. And like whatever you're looking for, whatever you're telling yourself is the truth. So I sat there and I thought about that, and I think it's completely true. I think I've done a really, really good job in the last year of removing relationships that are not mutual and removing relationships that are not uplifting, that are not nurturing. And I've been very intentional about the people I've had in my life and the people I'll continue to have in my life, because if the relationship is not mutual and uplifting, then I don't want to be in it, because it's just not worth my time and energy. And I have enough self-respect and enough self-love to not tolerate relationships that are not mutual and the relationships that don't bring me up and that I don't bring the other person up. Like if it's not that, it doesn't work that way, then it doesn't work, period. So that's one lesson I really learned through in a lot of these situations. And also just the lesson of radical acceptance, you know, like I have gone into situations where I had hopes and maybe expectations about how things were going to go and how relationships were going to go, or experiences or opportunities or whatever, doesn't matter. And if something fell short of my hopes and dreams and expectations, I started to try to warp and try to change myself and change the situation to make it fit the thing that I wanted it to be, rather than just radically accepting what it is. And I have learned in the last 3 weeks to knock that the fuck off. And I think it's been a lesson in that, in the last year too. Like I even saw that with when my best friend didn't get his visa for Vietnam, and the situation wasn't what I was expecting or hoping, but having radical acceptance and just like loving it for what it was and not necessarily what I wanted it to be was a really enlightening experience. And I feel that way now with my relationships, even considering the one with Monsieur Sois. Like I went into this time with him expecting it to be a certain way based on how we were over the summer. And, I think it was fair of me to feel that way, because the expectations and the hopes I had for what this was going to be, these 3 weeks together, what they were going to be, was completely based off of our time together in the summer, but it was a very different situation at that time. We were both different people. There were a lot of substances involved. I wasn't stressed. I was in type B Sasha mode. I was chilling out. I wasn't worried about travel logistics. I was hanging out. I was just enjoying my time, slowing down in one place. And I was surrounded by other people all the time, having my people cup filled up. I felt truly very much so like myself and very aligned and very centered at that time. And for him, it was different too. We were both under the influence basically the entirety of every moment we spent together. It's one thing that we really bonded over, was that we both love the same substance. So we would partake in that together literally all the time. And for him, he's taking a break from that. And so am I. Like we're both completely sober, not really drinking, not really doing anything else. And it's our first time together being sober. We haven't really had interactions with a lot of other people versus when in the summer we were living in a house with 30 other people and a bunch of loved ones. And, we had a lot of time separation too over the summer. Like I was working all day, every day, and going out to the office. And going out on my wanders, and he was living his own life during the day, and we'd really only hang out like a couple hours in the evening and on the weekends. Like, it wasn't like we were together 24/7 all the time. So of course, the situations are very different, and I was kind of hoping and expecting that we would have the same kind of connection that we had over the summer, which I think was a fair thing to make because that was my only frame of reference. But coming into the situation now, we're completely different people in a completely different situation under completely different circumstances. And of course, that means the relation is going to be completely different, and it's going to evolve, and it's going to change. And at first, I felt really sad about it, and I had to let them go. And I don't think I think there was some grief in not having it be the way that it was before. But at the same time, I don't think I fully have grieved that because number one, I'm still in it. I'm still going through it with him. And we still have 2 more days together that I'm really looking forward to spending with him and enjoying our time. But I think once we separate, I think there is going to be some sort of level of grief over, this thing isn't what I hoped it was. And it's different. And in some ways, it's so much more beautiful and incredible and deeper and amazing. And in other ways, it's not as great. And that's okay. And that's totally okay. And he and I were talking about it the other night, and we were saying, there are 3 things that make you really understand if you know someone. And number 1 is when you live together, which we did over the summer. Number 2 is when you travel together, which we have done for the last 3 weeks. And the third is when you go through tough times. And we have been for the last 3 weeks. I've been going emotionally through a lot. He's been, making a lot of changes in his life as far as, coming off of substances and just like changes in his life, stepping outside of his comfort zone. He's never really traveled a lot before. And yeah, so like for him, it's changing. For me, it's changing. And it's a lot of emotional processing. So we've been through a lot together in the last 3 weeks. And I feel like we've really grown to have a deeper knowledge and understanding of one another. And in some ways, I love him so much more. And I truly love this man. And I love this man as a person. Like, I love who he is. And he's just such an incredible soul, like just so amazing. But in some ways, it's just like, I can love him for who he is, but I don't think that means I'm in love with him. Like I don't feel like in love with him, but I do love him. And having that distinction is really a gorgeous thing for me. And we have like a very deep connection. And the more time we spend together, the more I'm like, wow, we are very, very similar. We may not look at life the same way, but the way we think about life and the way we go about life is very similar. And it's a beautiful thing. And I feel like he's almost a mirror for me because we are so similar. And I don't think I realized how similar we were until we spent time together in this way, like without substances involved, without a buffer of other people, without the buffer of time and separation. And it's been interesting. But the lesson I've learned through all of it is coming to radical acceptance of what the thing is versus what I wanted it to be. And for the first 2 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept it. It's going to be fine. I'm like accepting it. And then I really wasn't, though. Like, I still had hopes that things were going to be the way that they used to be. And then it got to a point over the last weekend where a situation came up, and I was at a point where I just looked at him and I'm like, this isn't working the way I thought it was going to. This just isn't working, period. And after that, like, it did feel like radical acceptance. It felt like everything clicked into place at once, and everything, I just like felt this overwhelming sense of peace and this overwhelming sense of like flow and acceptance and just like calm that washed over my entire body. And it felt really incredible. And it helped me break a pattern that I was like, oh, if something's not working, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and trying to make it work, make it work, make it work. And that's what I did in the past. I tried to change myself. I tried to change the situation. I tried to manipulate things to make it fall into place the way I wanted it to fall into place. And this time I feel like I kind of broke the spell where I was like, this isn't working the way I thought it was going to, and this isn't working the way I wanted it to, and that's okay. It's okay to have things evolve. It's okay to have things change, and it's okay for things to not be the way I expected it, because at the end, it ended up being the lessons I received from the situation ended up being so much more important than the relationship I thought I was going to have with this guy. Like, me facing these demons and me facing these limiting patterns and me facing all of these triggers from my past was way more important and way more necessary for me and my growth and my evolution than me having this beautiful, happy rainbow sunshine time with my summer fling. Really, like it was so much more important for my evolution and growth to like go through what I went through as opposed to what I wanted to go through. So in that way, I feel like I learned a huge, huge lesson. I almost like learned it the hard way. And I feel so grateful that I was able to have this experience with him. And it feels really special and incredible. And the story's not over yet. So I don't think I'm going to tell the story about what happened. I'm still going through it and I'm still experiencing it. So I was on the phone with my mom on the anniversary of my breakup. To be honest with you, that day I was sitting really, really heavy in grief. I thought that day was going to feel like a celebration. I thought it was going to be like, have a party, get a slice of cake, drink a glass of champagne. I've been single for a year. Amazing. It was not that. It was not that. It was crying and crying and crying and just sitting in really heavy grief over the relationship. Not just the relationship ending, but like the whole year. And I was on the phone with my mom, and she said something to me. And when she said it to me, I just started sobbing. She said, "This year for you has been learning how to say goodbye, and it's just been a lot of goodbyes." And I broke down at that point. I just started crying and crying and crying. And I think this year has been a meditation and a practice in learning how to let go. And this kind of comes down to the same lesson as before, is like radical acceptance and being okay with how things are instead of what you wanted them to be. And, I think that's the case with my relationship. And I think that's the case with how I thought my life was going to look in Miami. I think that's been the case for how I thought a lot of my experiences were going to go this year, or a lot of my relationships, or situationships, or friendships, or I had all these ideas about how things were going to go. And this year has been a practice in letting go. And I think for me, before I started traveling this year, I really valued certainty and I really valued knowing what was going to happen and having control over the outcome and trying to force something to happen the way I wanted it to happen, no matter what. And this year, I've had to learn how to let go, and it's been practice, practice, practice of learning how to say goodbye, learning how to accept what it is and not what I wanted it to be, learning how to let go, learning how to surrender, learning how to go with the flow. Flow, don't force, flow, don't force, flow, don't force. And it's been a practice in that. And I feel like I've been faced with that almost not every day, but almost every couple of days. Every time I move to a new place, honestly, it's a practice in learning to just move on, move forward, let go, be okay with it, surrender to the experience, and just be okay with understanding whatever experience I'm getting from life is the one I'm supposed to have, not the one I wanted. And it's been a practice in that, and it's been a meditation in that. And I think I've gotten way, way better at it. I think on it, I don't want to say I've mastered it because in life, I think we're in pursuit constantly of evolving, and we're constantly in the pursuit of learning and growing and becoming more of yourself and learning how to love yourself more and just allowing the life to flow through you. And I think life is always going to be like that. I think I'm going to be learning for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a student for the rest of my life. That's what I've committed to. And being okay with always being in the pursuit of evolving, getting better, having more fun, loving myself more, and just like making the most out of my fucking life. And that's okay. And that's okay. Like it's never going to stop. And I'm cool with that. Like I'm cool with always facing my patterns and always facing my limiting beliefs and always facing my triggers. And how can I learn the lesson? How can I grow? How can I evolve? What is this experience teaching me, even if it's not what I wanted it to be? And that way, it's been really beautiful. And I feel really, really, really grateful for this experience of this whole year and this whole life. It's been absolutely beautiful. And even the messy moments, even the tears, even the breakdowns, even the sobbing into my work, even the breakups and the betrayals and the questioning myself, like all of it. It's just been this gorgeous mess, this like gorgeous piece of art. And am loving every fucking minute of it. I have never felt so alive, you know, and blessed and grateful. Those are my thoughts right now. Maybe one day I'll tell the full story about Monsieur 66, including the whole summer. Maybe I'll tell that story one day. But today's not the day for that. And now is not the time for that. And I don't know, because our story's not over, and I don't know even after this trip if this story's gonna be over, to be honest. Like, I think I'm gonna have a link and a bond with this man from my entire life, even if that's, I don't know what the hell that's gonna look like, but I have this feeling that we're just meant to be in each other's lives forever in different types of capacities. And I don't know what that's gonna look like, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay not knowing what that link is gonna look like, but I do know that I love this person and I care for him so deeply, and I know we're gonna be in each other's lives forever, even if it's in different ways and different things. I don't know. And then, but now's not the time to tell the story. So those are my thoughts. Next stop is the USA, back home, back to America to get my Chipotle burrito and spending some time with loved ones and spending some time just reconnecting or reintegrating like fucking Tony Robbins. After that, spending basically like a month with my family or like close friends and whatever, and then off to the next chapter. Asia's been wild being here for 2.5 months. Has been everything and nothing I thought it was going to be. And this year has been everything and nothing I thought it was going to be. Life has been everything and nothing I thought it was going to be. Anyway, we'll catch you guys next week on the Visualize Meditations podcast. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Visualize Meditations podcast. Please follow, subscribe, leave a review, all of the good things. If you want to connect more, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Visualize Meditations. So what are you waiting for? Get out there, create the life of your dreams, and we will see you next week.